Welcome back to the David Pakman Show. Benjamin Dixon filling in for David. David is away in Los Angeles appearing on the Joe Rogan podcast. So I'm sure that's going to be a great conversation. Glad to be here with you today. Go over to the Benjamin Dixon Show on YouTube and subscribe. New content is up and it's my birthday. So, help me get over 25,000 subscribers. But anyway, let's get to the news. Everything conservatives do trying to attack Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez instantly turns into a commercial for her. There's a tweet by a guy, Ryan Saavedra. He works for Ben Shapiro's Daily Wire. And he tweeted this out. There's two parts. I'm going to read the tweet first, and then I want you to watch the video. The video is a little difficult to hear, but it's worth watching. This is what he said on Twitter. Quote, Socialist Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of Democratic New York on her $93 trillion Green New Deal. Quote, you have the right to a job, you have the right to an education, you have the right to health care, a right to a dignified home, and a right to a dignified retirement. Let's take a listen into that clip.
Because we believe in the second economic bill of rights. We believe in a right to health care, and a right to a dignified home, and a right to retirement, to a dignified retirement.
So here's the thing. I find it hilarious that every single thing Republicans think is going to be a turnoff about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez instantly becomes a turn on in terms of politics and her political stance. I want to make sure I was clear on what I'm talking about there. But seriously, do you think anyone looking at this, except a sadist, would look at this and say, oh, this is just something that we absolutely don't want? These are things that we don't want. No, if anyone has a problem with having a right to a job, a right to an education, a right to health care, and a right to a dignified home, housing, and a right to a dignified retirement, all of those things are really a part of what the American dream always was, particularly for baby boomers. The baby boomer generation, these things were expected. A job, a decent education. So anyone who looks at that and has a problem with it is really quite sadistic, number one. But number two, the only question that should be asked about this is, how do we pay for it? Not in this Republican way. They're like, oh, how are we going to get this done? But if there's any question, is how do we pay for it? And then you look at where we're doing all of the spending we're currently doing, particularly on all of our wars, on the defense contractors, all the money that is wasted in our economy already without even raising taxes on the wealthy any more than it currently is. There's enough money that's being wasted for us to take care of all of these things. Notwithstanding the fact that we absolutely should raise taxes on the wealthiest people in this country, not just because Donald Trump just lowered them, but because they were already historically low. Those are the ways that we pay for these things. That's how we get these things done. And the emphasis that he puts, if you don't mind putting the tweet back on the screen from Ryan, from the Daily Wire. He said, Socialist Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. First of all, bruh, you're not scaring anyone away with the word socialist anymore. You guys kind of, you guys jumped the shark with that with Obama, when every other sentence was a socialist, Maoist, Leninist, communist. Obama. Turns out everybody did well. All the capitalists did well under Barack Obama because Barack Obama was not a socialist. Barack Obama was a capitalist. But because you guys overplayed that card so much, nobody looks at this and says, oh my goodness, she's a socialist and these are terrifying things. That's number one. Nobody's afraid of a socialist anymore. Thank you for that, by the way. But number two, nothing that she says here is remotely socialism in the way that they're trying to promote it as socialism. I am pretty sure I've had this conversation with this audience before, but let me emphasize something. Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez are not socialists. They are, at best, post office socialists. They are FDR-style capitalists. They are trying to save capitalism from itself. If you want to meet some real socialists, let me introduce you to some of my friends who are like so far to the left of me that they scare me, right? There's actual communists in the country who want to seize the means of production right away. like gulags and guillotines right away. Bernie Sanders and the Green New Deal and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, this is nothing more than post office socialism, where we take a few tax dollars and we put it together so that we can do something for the common welfare, to promote the general welfare. Goodness. It's like if you like firefighters, then you are a socialist according to Republicans. Right? If you like public schools, then you're a socialist according to Republicans. That's because they have a fetish. They fetishize privatization of everything. That is their solution to everything. Not because they think it's going to make it better, but because they know that they can make a profit off of it. And they know they can take those tax. It's not as though they want the government to not collect the tax dollars that it's currently collecting. Not the enterprising capitalists, not the well, I was going to say new capitalists, but they've been doing this for hundreds of years. But what they want are those tax dollars to be paid to private industry, so private industry can do the same thing the government would do, but charge a little bit more and make a profit off of it. That's what they want, right? So they are socialists. They just want socialism going to the wealthy, not going to the poor. And so what they do is they use a scare tactic and they say, oh, because she believes, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez believes that everyone has a right to a job. Oh, she wants to turn America into Venezuela, right? Ocasio-Cortez thinks everyone has a right to health care. Oh, Venezuela. Never mind the fact that what's going on in Venezuela is not even the result of socialism as much as it is a result of American sanctions and a result of the swings in oil prices, because Venezuela was overwhelmingly dependent on oil. But I digress. They use that as a scare tactic so that you can never, ever demand more from this country based on what we're putting into this country and based on what the wealthiest people in this country should be putting in. They scare you with socialism, Venezuela. Wanting a dignified retirement is socialism and Venezuela. And Ocasio-Cortez is a socialist. These are the games that the Republicans have been playing for years. And we're finally at a tipping point where people are not terrified by those terms anymore. No one is going to look at a socialist and be like, oh, this is the most terrifying thing that I've ever seen. And thanks in part to, yes, Bernie Sanders being very consistent over the last, I don't know, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years of his career. I love you, Bernie. And thanks in part also to Republicans using that term over and over and over again. And now people are like, well, you know what? If the post office is socialism to you, then I'm okay with post office socialism. And we should go one step further, and we should have a nationalized healthcare system, right? A single payer, Medicare for all. Go even further, like we should have a right to a job. It is very, we are the wealthiest country in the history of the world. There's no reason why we cannot get every person in this country a job. And last but not least, here's the disgusting part about it, is that every single one of these things, the right to a job, the right to an education, the right to health care, right to a dignified home, and a right to a dignified retirement, every single one of those things, based on how America currently is, if we gave every American one of those things, private industry would benefit. Private industry would get the spoils of all of these benefits that we're giving to individuals. It will absolutely trickle up to private industry, but that's not good enough for Republicans. That's not good enough for capitalists. They don't want to profit off of your well-being. They want to take the last dime and suck every penny out of your life and out of your soul. They are vultures. That's the irony of this, is that we actually could all do well, but they don't want that. They would rather they do well. And well, you just, good luck.